Model Making Guru is sponsored by emodels.co.uk, your one-stop shop for all your model making needs. emodels.co.uk. Make something awesome. Hey everyone, it's Fox from Model Making Guru here. Hello and welcome to a new partwork build series. As you've no doubt figured out, it is the DeAgostini Build Your Own X-Wing partwork in which you build a 1/18 scale X-Wing fighter from the Star Wars. Yes, it's going to be massive. Now, I was recently contacted by a company working with DeAgostini and they said, hey, do you want to do a collaboration? Do you want to do a video build series on this partwork? I'm like, hello, yeah. So very kindly, Deag are going to be sending me the issues each month, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to get the thing built up. Now it's going to fit on my desk. Those who know me know that there was a previous DeAgostini partwork that didn't get past a certain number of episodes because it was too big. The Millennium Falcon is sat in a wardrobe in all the magazines piled up because I couldn't get past the cockpit. It didn't fit. However, I've done some calculations, and this should fit on my workbench. If I have to move my hobby zone shelves and things, I can do that each time we film. It's only once a month I'm going to be doing this. Now, it's 100 issues, if I remember rightly, spread over about 2 years, same as most other partworks. And what I'm going to be doing is initially just getting all the partworks each month, all the issues, building them all together, and by the end of the 100 issues we'll have a big fat X-Wing fighter with the factory paint job. Once I've got it all built together, then I'm going to start looking at repainting stuff. I'm going to be able to fit it into my current schedule of a million different things because I'm not going to be doing any painting or fixing of anything right at the moment. We're going to get the whole thing built up first. Then once it's built up, we'll come back in, we'll clear up some seam lines, we'll do some painting, we'll do the weathering and everything else. We'll do all that once the whole thing is built because I'll know then what I need to fiddle with and what I don't. So initially, we're just going to build it up to get the big fat X-Wing at the end of 100 issues. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to push it. I don't know what DeAgostini is sending me. I'm assuming they're just going to send me the standard issues, the same as most people have. There is a chance they might send me the pay extra to get all the extra bits and bobs, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to send me. As far as I'm aware, it's just going to be the normal magazines that you and I would get if we subscribe. I don't know if I'm getting the premium stuff, but if I do, there's like a diorama set. They call it a diorama, but it's just furniture. It's like a couple of blokes and vehicles, and I think you actually get a pilot figure, a Luke pilot figure for this, but I don't know. If it is just the standard fare, if just getting the standard magazines that just, most people will get, then what I'll probably do is further down the line, by that point there'll be third-party figures and things like that that I can get later on. But if I'm in the premium package, hopefully, never know, I might get all the figures that come with it. So we shall wait and see. I'll probably also, by the time it gets to painting this, I'll look into, say, third-party 3D printed parts and bits and bobs, because usually with these kind of things, they're usually fairly accurate and pretty spot on, but there's always little bits where people make 3D printed accessories that just up the detail, little detail up sets. So we'll look at some of those once this is all built and done as well. So what we'll do, we'll have a quick look at the first 3 issues which I've just received and what come with them, and then we'll do the buildy bits that come in these issues. So back in a moment. Okay, so we're going to start off, of course, with issue 1. Now, I'm not going to go massively into depth with the magazines themselves, rather than just to show you a quick look of what's inside and what you get with each issue. Because if you've done a partwork before, you kind of know the routine. You get a bit of fluff about the lore of whatever you're building, and you get the little instructions that tell you what to do with the stuff you received that month, if there's anything to be assembled. Now, the reason I'm looking forward to these is, obviously there's no Warhammer content in there, boo hiss, but yes, there's a lot of the Star Wars fluff, the lore, the backstory and history and vehicles and all that kind of stuff. There'll be loads of stuff like that, which is always fascinating because it's Star Wars. Come on, who doesn't like Star Wars? What's more interesting to me is all the stuff it's going to have about the design and build process that would have gone on at ILM when they designed all these iconic vehicles, the history of the models themselves. And this, to me, is the gold mine. This is the little vein of valuable resource, starting in this first issue with a little article about Ralph Mcquarrie, the guy that designed all the iconic vehicles in this and many other sci-fi movies. You're wondering why the Discovery in Star Trek Discovery looks the way it does. It's because it was designed on a very old design that Ralph Mcquarrie did of the Refit Enterprise. It looked terrible. It truly looked terrible, but that's what they used. So yes, Ralph McQuarrie, legendary designer. So I'm really looking forward to all the the information about the models and the design process and how they were built and how they were filmed. Obviously, I have some interest in the lore because, like I said, it's Star Wars. And also then we have the buildy part. What you're going to do with the bits you've got in that particular issue. So fairly straightforward. It's not going to be a complicated build. There is some lighting with this, so I'm not expecting anything too complex, though. It should be fairly straightforward. And like I said, we're going to follow these guides in the magazines right up to the very end till we've got ourselves a big fat X-Wing. Then I'll go in and paint and weather and detail up and all that kind of stuff afterwards. Initially, we're just going to get it built. So like I said, I'm not going to focus too much on this contents of the magazines. The fun of this is that you can sit there and read that for yourself if you subscribe. So I'm not going to read them out to you. Now, we do get a few bits extra with the first issue. We get the magazine, obvs. We also get the first set of parts. Oh, that's the Canopy. Buy it, grommet. That's massive. It's maffist, that is. That's... oh. So yeah, we get a selection of parts. We've got the Canopy. I don't know if you can see under the shiny plastic. We've got a bit for R2, some of the turbo lasers or the laser cannons, the cannon part there, and the Canopy and some bits and bobs. So we're going to have fun with that. One other thing you do get in issue 1 is this nice little poster, which is not really a poster you're going to stick on your wall. It's just like here's what to expect in the magazine partwork series, and it just gives you a big photograph of the finished model, what is probably a prototype or first build model, and it shows you things like it's got a removable hyperdrive section, a proton torpedo bay, it's got a light up R2 unit, detailed cockpit, all kinds of bits and bobs. It does say, this always makes me giggle a little bit, authentic finish and markings. No. You see, computer says no, because there's no markings on it. There's literally no markings on it at all. There's the colour patches, but if you look at the actual proper filming model, there's little markings everywhere. There's dots and decals, there's the little symbols and shapes. There is, if you look at the real deal of Red 5, there is half a Tamiya symbol on one of the engines. There's many decals. ILM used to cut up existing decals and put them all over their models. And given this is 1/18 scale, I hope, because this is probably a prototype that they painted up. So there's two possibilities. One is we get at some point a detailed water slide sheet, which will be fantastic. Or more likely we don't. Yeah, okay. I would hope then by that point there'll be like some third-party water slides probably that somebody will make. So we'll see how it goes. Somebody might take some, say, fine molds decals and scale them up. I don't know. We'll wait and see. It'd be great if you did get some water slides. It hasn't mentioned it anywhere, but you never know. And as for the authentic finish, it's fine if you're just the kind of person that builds these things as collectibles. It's kind of the weathering you might get on the Hasbro toy. It's not anywhere near a professional paint job. If you're just collecting this for the sake of having a collectible, it'll look great because it's massive. If, however, like me, you want to go a bit further, I can make this look more like that. No problem. That's the filming miniature. We can make this look much better and much more like the filming miniature. If you're a painty type already, you'll already know how you can do that. If you're not, or if you're just building this and you're not a model maker, here's why I'm doing this. If you're just the kind of person that builds this up and sticks it on the shelf, albeit a very wide shelf, I will show you, once we've built it, how to paint this to look like a studio miniature. So don't panic. If you can't paint like even as good as this, I'll get you there. Don't worry, I will get you through it. So you get that. Now there is one other thing that arrives with this, and it's kind of big. I can't show you in its entirety because it's, well, let's just say, well, let's not just say, I'll just put it there. It is a blueprint. I can't zoom the camera out anymore. This is a blueprint that is the actual size, as things fall over, the actual size of the finished project. Yeah. Can you see how big that is to my hand? This is going to take up, it's going to fit on my desk. It's going to fit on my desk quite nicely. Lengthwise. Widthwise with the wings, going to be a challenge, but we shall find out. We shall see. Look at the size of that. And that is huge. It is the biggest thing in the world, and this is going to be, even with its shonky paint job, it's going to be beautiful when it's finished, and when we paint it up, it's going to be even more beautiful. So yeah, like I say, these kind of paint jobs, they're not the best paint jobs you get with these things, like the Millennium Falcon, the big DeAgostini Millennium Falcon. It was all right, but it sorely needs painting. It looks fine. This is so big, it's going to look fine regardless. I can't believe how big. This is just massive. It's bigger than a child. It's oh, it certainly will fit on this desk, but I'll have to move all my hobby zone benches and things and storage units out of the way. Oh, hopefully it'll be a while before we get there. Anyway, let me move all this away and we'll have a look at the parts and we'll get the little buildy bits done for issue 1. Okay, so here are all the parts that come with issue 1 now. First things first, when you get everything out of the blister packing, just do a quick head count, make sure everything's there. You may find little tiny plasticky things like that, little tiny bits and components, might sometimes cling to the blister packing with static cling, like a little tiny limpet. So if you find yourself missing a little tiny plastic bit, it's probably going to be a little tiny plastic bit. Just go and double check the blister pack, make sure it's not in there. Don't just get all this out and throw the blister pack away. Keep it to one side, you might find. I'm having real trouble saying blister pack, teeth. Oh, I'm not going to say blister pack ever again because I can't say it. Right, so anyway, we've got all the parts. Now, the majority of this is going to be a push fit or a screw things together kit. However, there are a number of tools you might find handy. So I'll move these out of the way and I'll very quickly show you the tools I'm most likely going to be using. First of all, common sense thing, get yourself a little container with a screw top lid. Why? Each month you're going to get lots of little tiny farty parts, and some of these you might not use for weeks and weeks and weeks. It might be 6 months before I use some of these. Get something with a lid, because when you're working on it, when you get your 4 issues each month and you're working on it, you don't want little bits lying around, because all you have to do is sneeze or drop something, or maybe you've got a cat and that'll just get evil and bat things off the desk, and all it takes is one mistake and you've lost all your bits. So get yourself a little screw top container so all your little tiny bits can sit off to the side and you're not going to lose them. Next up, I strongly recommend some Ziploc bags or little foodie bags or little tidy bags, any kind of thing like this where you can reseal it. I'm going to use one of these per issue. What I'm basically going to do, I don't have the luxury of having enough space to have lots and lots of components and bits sitting around. So I'm going to use one of these per each issue, and when I finish building bits today, all the bits I've built and all the spare bits left over will go into a bag labelled issue 1, and then the same for issue 2 and the same for issue 3, so that 18 weeks from now, when the book says, hey, you need to go back to the stuff you received in issue 1 and screw it in here, I can go and find the bag with issue 1, get that bit, and I can attach it. It's kind of an easy sorting way, but it also means I can jam it all into a small cardboard box and not take up much space, because this house, there's no space anywhere. Next up, you want to get yourself a sharp blade of some sort. If you're an existing model maker, you'll have a craft knife or a hobby knife already. Use that. If you're not, just pop along to your hobby store and get yourself a nice modelling knife. Ideally one with a replaceable blade, because as it goes on, you want to make sure you're always using a sharp knife. Now, you're not really going to be using this for cutting things off sprues, but there are some parts, like you can see here on the Canopy, where when it was manufactured, it was popped off a sprue, and there's a little nub left over. So you might find a blade handy just for helping to clean those up, and you might need it for some other bits and bobs. We shall find out later on. So do have a nice sharp craft blade, and like I say, if you can get one with a replaceable blade, that means you can always make sure you've got a nice sharp blade. Next up, some kind of sanding equipment. You're probably going to need to use this to clean up any nubs that you've just used the knife on anyway, and there will be little seam lines and mould lines here and there that you might be able to easily sand down, so it's worth having something to sand. I've just got 2 here, but I've got a massive collection of ultimate modelling products, sanding sticks and sponges. Any model making sanding sticks and sponges will do. You can use sandpaper if you want. You can even use emery boards, you know, nail emery boards. Just try and get a varied selection from very rough to very fine polishing, just so you're not just using something rough all the time. So I've got a big collection of sanding sponges. I'm going to be using these throughout the build just to get rid of any rough bits, any little nubs left over, and any little obvious mould lines and things that I can quickly sand away. On that subject, I'm also going to use my Citadel mould line removal tool. I might not need to use this ever, but I've got one anyway, and this is handy for removing mould lines where you've got a moulding line right down the middle of a component, just to gently scrape it away, and then you can go back and sand it back. So if you've got one of these, or if you haven't got one, get one anyway, but if you've got one of these, you might need it. We might not need it, I don't know. I've only got 3 issues so far, but we'll see how this comes along. But I do recommend one of these. And last of all, glue. Now, this model, this kit, this X-Wing, is made, as far as I can tell from what I've read, of ABS plastic. Now, I normally use Tamiya Extra Thin. That won't work on ABS plastic. Tamiya Extra Thin glue is the best glue in the world, and it works on polystyrene. If this is ABS, you're SOL. You can't use polystyrene cement on ABS because there's little or no polystyrene. It won't stick. It won't melt anything. Extra Thin needs to melt polystyrene. If there's no polystyrene, it won't work. So there's a selection of glues you can use. The easiest one to get hold of and to use is Plastic Magic from Deluxe, whatever it says there. That's too small, I can't read. Plastic Magic, it's a general stick everything together. It works on most plastics, including ABS, and it is actually thinner than Tamiya Extra Thin. So you can run this between parts and it'll stick them together. So that's your kind of easiest to get hold of. It's really, really good glue. It does take about 24 hours to fully stick, but if you can get some of this, this is the dogs. This is fantastic stuff. You may also want to try and get some Tamiya ABS cement. This is thick Tamiya glue, if I can get it open. It's like the Tamiya fat cement, but it's thick and stodgy, but it's designed for ABS plastics. Again, polystyrene cement is not going to work. Now, it goes yellow in with age. I've had this for about 5 years. It goes yellow, but it still works. It actually says on the bottle, it may go yellow, but don't panic, it still works. It's very thick and stodgy though, so it's not much use if you're trying to glue little tiny things together. That's where this stuff comes in handy. Last of all, of course, there is super glue. I don't know if I'll need to use super glue. This is also CA or cyanoacrylate glue. A crazy glue, our cousins in the United States. Might call it. You might end up using this, but I don't recommend using this. If you can get some of this or some of this, it's much cleaner, much easier, much neater. This is messy times. It's blobby, it's messy. It's the other thing with this stuff is this will shatter if you knock it, so it's not going to last forever. This stuff, if you glue with this stuff, it's going to stick together forever, but you get some anyway. You might need it. So that's kind of the tools. That's all I can think of right now. I'll probably come up with something else, maybe some tweezers. You might want to get yourself some tweezers. You might have little tiny pieces to pick up, but I think that's about it. If I need anything else, I'll show you as we go along, but let's get on with the buildy. Okay, so the first step for this entire build is to assemblate the canopy frame. Now, it's very simple, but before we go ahead and snap it together, I want to show you, you might not see on camera, but there are little tiny nubs. There's 3 on here, there's 1 there and 1 on either corner, and there's 2 here. These are just where they've been moulded on a sprue, and in the factory they've taken it off the sprue. They do a very good job. It's a very nice clean cut. Taken it off the sprue, put it in the packaging for you. It is a very nice clean cut. It even puts my god hand nippers to shame, but it's still, you can feel a little bit. So what I'm going to do very, very quickly is take my sanding sticks, and I'm just going to take the rough one, and I'm just going to very gently, not really much pressure at all, just very gently just sand that a little bit, just to smooth it off, because I could feel a little tiny ridge. Now, if you are not painting this at all, one of the reasons you want to try and do this is just to get rid of you can see a little white mark there. That's just where the plastic's been stressed when it's been pulled off the sprue, and it's just a tension stress. It's a stress on the plastic. So sanding it might help reduce it a little bit. So if you're not going to be painting this once you've finished, you want to sand these away. Going in now with the medium grit. I don't know what grits these are. I often joke and say that Paul over at UMP never puts the grit values on his sponges, so I can't pimp them properly because I can't tell you what grit these are. But that's the rough white one, and this is the squishy grey one. There you go. So that's just got them nice and smooth now. You can still see there's a white stress mark there. There's not much you can do about that if you're not going to be painting. Now, in reality, you're not going to see these because it's kind of where the cockpit canopy joins together, but it's just a matter of principle for me. So I'll do the same on here. Again, just purely because I can feel a little bit of a nub. If they were just cosmetic, if it was just a stress mark and there was no texture to it, I wouldn't bother with this. But because I can feel a slight bump, I just want to get them nice and smooth. And the trick with any sanding is always start off with the rougher, coarser grit, and then work your way up to a finer grit. Now on this build we're not going to be doing a load of proper hardcore professional model making sanding, but always start with the rough and then go in with the smooth. This gets rid of the excess plastic, and this then tidies up the mess left behind by that. So you go from rough to smooth. So that's now done. Nice and smooth, yeah, das ist richtig. And all we need to do is now put these together. So what you do, quite simply, pop that in. What does it say in the magazine? It says, hook the hinges over the pins, press the parts together firmly until the hinges snap onto the pins. Snap is not a word a model maker likes to hear. So we'll just push that down. Not much snapping going on. Meh. Go on, in you go. Meh. You can see here the circle itself, that the hole it goes into is wider at the top. It's not as wide at the bottom, and that's so it can snap into place and then be locked in place. So just keep giving it a push. Oh, baby, this is quite unforgiving. I don't want to break anything. Oh, there we go. There we go. Whew. Just take your time. Be careful. Try and make sure you're supporting the plastic on either side. Don't just push it down from one angle because you don't want to snap anything. This one just needs to do its duty and get in there. Come on. There we go. Right, so that is both those snapped together. Now, because the hole is wider at the bottom, that is now permanently, hopefully, attached. And we have a completed Canopy. There you go, Obi-Wan Canopy. Yeah, what's next? Next up, we have the 3 pieces that will make our first... Oh, stay. No, wait. There we go, perfect. We'll have the... Oh! You know, good way to test if your desk's flat or not. He's not. Anyway, yes, let's make the first parts for our first laser cannon that's going to go on one of the wings. Dead simple. What we do, we have a big fat part, a thin part, and a little plastic stopper. I can't quite tell if these are metal or just the plastic that sounds like metal. I think they might actually be metal. On the filming miniature, these were actually metal. So this is fairly straightforward. There's no front and back end, I don't think. Other than this end is a bit darker with the spray. So it kind of makes sense, really, if you have... I mean, it's entirely to taste, but it might be worth just matching up the dark area, the dark end, with the dark bit there, just for an overall consistent look. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the big fat piece, we're going to push the shoulder, this is a shoulder, firmly into the jacket. So push it in. So, it's a really tight fit. That's in. Yes. And then we're just going to put this on top. So dark bit here. Might as well match it. May as well make it match up. This just goes on the end there. Oh, there you go. And that is the tubey bits for a laser cannon for one of the wings. Now it's a little bit wibbly wobbly. It's not exactly the... Yeah, it's a bit... So just keep working on it. It might just need to be glued perhaps at a later time. I may need to reinforce that with some perhaps... Now this is one of the places where you would want to use perhaps super glue, because plastic and metal don't stick together at all well. Seems like these little teeth here are maybe not quite big enough. So maybe later on, when it comes to the crunch, when it comes to getting everything finished up, what I might do is just get that glued in place. It's a little bit loose, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just a little bit wibbly wobbly. We can always glue that. It's not a major problem. Or I can always, if I need to, put some varnish or something on that just to widen it a little bit. But for now, that will do fine. So we've got that bit. Next up, we have to attach the 3 holographic projectors to R2's head. So we've got 3 holes in the head and 3 projectors. It's important you get these the right way around. 1, 2 with the angly bit, and 3. Now, I forgot to mention a tool earlier on. I'm going to be using my nippers. These are God hand nippers. You don't need to get God hand nippers, but any kind of model making nippers are good. You can, it says in the magazine, you can just twist these off, and you can if you want to. However, if you want to avoid damaging these, I do recommend you get yourself a nice pair of nippers. What I'm going to do is nip off piece 1, off the sprue like that, and this just needs to go. Where does this one need to go? This one needs to go here. This one here. Let's see if we can get this on. It says to make sure you get it the right way around. It doesn't specifically state which way round. It says fit it in this way round, but the majority of the showing you which way round to fit it is actually obscured by the person's thumb. Yeah, fantastic. Well done. So we'll just see. We'll try sticking it in and see what happens. Hope you can see this on camera. Oh, it's very fiddly. Oh, very fiddly. Oh, hello. Get in. I could do this with tweezers, but I haven't got enough push on a pair of tweezers. There. Oh, that's it. There you go. That's in. So that's that one there. 1. Next we need to do piece number 2, which is the one in the middle, which is... yeah. Oops. Wrong way around. I'll take that one out again. because that is number 3. Yeah, I had this the wrong way around. Make sure that's pointing that way. I needed piece number 1. After all that, what a spoon. So we'll take piece number 1. Hello. Laugh, I nearly spent money. Right, let's get that one in there. Hopefully this still works quite nicely. That seems to go in. Go on, get in. Fiddly times. There we go. That's that one in. That's 1. Now this was number 3, so we'll go straight to number 3 because I'll just do number 2 first. Where's that one gone? So number 2, of course, is the one in the middle with the big dog leg shape. We shall snip that off there. Number 2 goes. Where does this one go? This one goes on the top of his dome. It says again this way round. You can just about see. It needs to have that pointing down like that. So you just about see in the photograph. It's not very clear because it's all just photographs of somebody doing what you're supposed to do. So yeah, it's not fantastic. It's all right there. It gives you enough to work with. It's a tight fit, this one though. Go on. I'm very conscious I don't want to scrape the blue paint because when it comes to this being finished, we're not going to repaint R2 because painting the R2 blue areas in this finish is very tricky. It's much better if I can use the paint job because it's actually a pretty good paint job on that because we're going to weather him. He's going to be a bit weathered. That's not a bad paint job at all on him, so it's worth maybe in that case just keeping his paint job. Makes life a lot easier. We'll try this again. Oh, there we go. Click him in. You do have to get it exactly. If you've got the hole there, you have to get the pin lined up perfectly because it is a bit of a tricky fiddle and they are quite small. So that just means the last one, which is part number 3, this needs to go fit the slot at the back of R2-D2's dome this way around. So that should be that one there. Tiny little hole for a tiny little piece that goes in. Oops. Now this is something you don't often see when I do my videos and something you never see on a lot of other people's videos. I will quite happily sit here and fumble for 5 minutes and show you most of it. A lot of videos will edit all this out and say, here you go, there you go, done. Right. So anyway, that is issue 1, R2's bonds. We have the cockpit canopy done. I know it's canopy, I'm just making a joke. And we have the ever so slightly wobbly, yeah, that's a bit weird that. We are going to have to glue that and reinforce it. I think what's happened is, this, when it's gone down onto these little sticky out bits here, has sheared them a little bit because it's a tight fit, which is a bit of a design flaw. But because that's just going to come off. But we're not going to glue it yet, but some super glue later on will actually fix that nicely. We just have to make sure get it straight and everything. So we'll put that to one side for now. Anything else to do in issue 1? No, it does have a bit more information about the next issue and how R2 will go together later. So we still have some R2 pieces and this part of the laser cannon. So I'm going to put those. I'm going to put the lid back on here. Yes, golden rule. Put your lid back on, and we'll start out issue 2. Okay, now I'm not going to go through every single magazine each week and each episode because there's no point. You get to read the magazine yourself. And you get the usual, background on the model making and the design. You get some fluff and lore. This one features Big's Dark Lighter. However, the one thing I did want to show you in issue 2 is this. And hopefully this is the way this goes forward. It's got a beautiful double-page spread of a still from the movie where you see Red 3 and Red 5. Big, nice filming studio miniatures there. And the reason I find this interesting is because pretty much you can see now how inaccurate that is, that paint job. It's just not. Yeah, when I show you how we're going to paint this, when we've got this built and I repaint this, we will make this look like that. A bit more. We'll have all the right kind of colours. Now you have to account for, the colour adjusting and stuff when it's actually on screen, but if you want to make it look like the thing you see on screen, we'll get it looking more like that. For example, that's blue, that's eggshell blue, that's taupe. It's just not even the same. So we shall have some fun making this look like that. Yes. So anyway, let's crack on. Let's get all the parts out for issue 2. Took me years to figure out how to do that. Anyway, yes, here we are. Here are all the parts for issue 2. First noticeable one is this big, massive, honking piece of metal which is going to be, I think, the base for the cockpit. We're not going to use that now, so I'm going to put that to one side. It's quite heavy. Now we also have a lot of parts to assemble R2's left leg, and we have the bits to make the laser generator, which has this beautiful colour separation between the gold and the silver, which is a bit of a shame because you're not going to see any of this, but we'll show that in a bit. First off, we're going to do the bit with R2, so let me just get the bits ready. Okay, so these are all the parts we have for R2's leg. This bit of optical fibre nonsense here, LED thing, device, can't get my words out. This goes to one side because that's for the laser emitter in a bit. Now this is fairly straightforward. We have two halves for the leg. I'm just having a quick look for any nubs, if it's been taken off a sprue. Not seeing anything obvious that I need to worry about. I think that looks pretty clean. This tiny piece here, that when you're taking it out of the packing, remember I said earlier on, check for things that cling to the plastic blister pack. I was hoping never to say that again. This is one of them. I had to go back and find it. It just clings to anything. It's got loads of static cling, and we've got this side piece here. So what we need to do first of all is we need to align the inner and outer sides of the leg, which have internal pins and sockets to joint the parts. So that just goes like this. Ready? Squeegee, squeegee, squeegee. There we go. It's quite a tight fit. Now you will have a big seam line down here, big gap where there's two pieces. Don't care. It's going to be inside. You're not going to see it. It's going to be like that and inside the R2 unit. And even if it's outside the R2 unit, do it the right way up, dear boy. You're not going to see it anyway. It's going to be hidden away. So don't care about that. You do get a big line here. So we might have to tackle that later on. And like I said, we're not going to be painting this, or we might not be painting this. So we shall have a think about that. When it comes to the build's finished and we can go back and start doing things like cleaning up and painting, we might need to, for example, fill this gap and then repaint just the foot. So we'll see what we do with that. We'll have a think about that. But that's going to be something we do at the end when we come back and make this thing look kick-ass. So that is that bit of the leg. Next, we have to push the joint into the circular mounting on R2-D2's shoulder. So it needs to be this way around with the little tabs on the outside. That goes in there. The two lugs go at the top and the bottom. Don't know how far that's supposed to go in. That's about, I think, as far as it goes. There we go. That's in. It says press the small oval front panel, ka-ching, into the matching recess in the power pack body. This will be here. Hope I'm on camera. I do apologise if I go out of shot. So this just goes into here like that. You see, it's quite a tight fit. It's a very tight fit. Hang on, pushing down. Oh, not even in properly. You stupid boy. Right, there we go. There we go. So that is in nicely. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring out the glues. So I'm going to bring out my plastic magic, because what I want to do is, first of all, I want to absolutely make sure that is never going to come out, because it's a tight fit, but it's not 100%. So what I'm doing, I've got the plastic magic, which is as thin as water, if not thinner. I've got a tiny amount on the brush, and all I'm going to do is run it around the gap. So what we'll do, capillary action, we'll suck that glue into the gap, and we'll glue all that in place. And when that dries, it should flash off and leave no blobs and splodges. You should be fine. So that will look pretty spanky. While I'm here, what I will do as well, I'll go back to the head, and I'll just do the same on these hologram emitters, holographic emitters. I really can't get my words out today. Again, just to lock them in place permanently, because I'm not going to need to take them out again. I'll try and do it on camera instead of going out of shot like a spoon. I'll get some there. Just a tiny amount. You don't need a lot with this stuff. It's so thin, it'll just suck into the gap with capillary action. Do it from the inside, because you're never going to see the inside. And that will then just lock those in place. I'll put him over there to dry. Now I just need to apparently stick this onto here. So what I'm going to do, I did watch Chris struggle with this. So what I'm going to do, here's a handy tip for you. If you're trying to fit parts that are a bit tight, get yourself your sharp craft knife and do it on camera. Sharp craft knife, and just get the knife in there. Make sure it's brand new blade and sharp. Run it round the hole, just a little tiny bit. because I'm going to glue this in place. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit loose, but I'd rather it be a little bit loose and then glued in place than so hard to get in that you risk breaking something. So that's going to go in there like that. Then we can just push that in. That is a very tight fit. Push that in. There. That is now in. I know Chris had a real struggle to get that in, so just by widening that hole a little tiny bit, it just gives you a bit more ease when you're trying to push that in. So there we go, that's now in place. I don't need to glue that because trust me, that will never ever come off. Not ever, because it's such a tight fit. That is the leg. Done. Next, we have to work on the laser emitter. Let's get the bits for that. So the laser emitter, we have these wonderful pieces here. Now, what we need to do is we need to, first of all, this is where we're going to need this piece of wiring here. We need to make sure this is all uncoupled. You're going to need, first of all, these two parts here and this end piece. I do love this guy. It's very nice. It reminds me of Retributor armor. It's very nice. What you need to do, first of all, take this piece with the little nub at the bottom, and we need to insert the LED so that it just pops through. Does it need to go all the way through? I think it just needs to sit in the little hole. Now, it's quite hard to get in there because it's kind of bigger than the hole and there's nothing to push on. So we have to hope. Let's get my tweezers and see if I can push down with these a little bit. I don't want to push too hard because I don't want to damage any wiring, but there we go, that's pushed in now. A little bit firmer. Now we need to take, there's two pieces here, one with the big stalk and one with the hole. So we need to set one with the stalk. We need to have this end with the two little flanges. This needs to feed the wire past the pin inside this half of the forward generator body. It needs to feed. Does this actually attach on? How does this go on? Oh, I see. So you need to feed this wire under there. It needs to go under the pin like that and through the hole at the end. And then this half needs to go on top of that. So be careful not to trap the wire, it says. So we need to get this piece here. It's quite fiddly. The one thing I found with this and other partworks is they are quite fiddly sometimes. You've got to do a lot of finagling. Okay, so that's that. I can make sure the wire is going through the holes. It's not trapped in anywhere. Good. I can pull it through. There we go. Lovely jubbly. That can now go in somehow. There is a little notch on the bottom here. You can see this little notch. This needs to tally up with the little key there. And Bob's your uncle. Fanny is your aunt. There we go. Beautiful. Just stick it out a little bit. There we go. I do dread, of course, if this wire gets pulled out that way. Yeah, you're going to take this all apart again. Whoa. Now you need to feed the wire through the central union. Central union, you say? This bit to the top. Feed the wire through. Fiddly things, bomb, bomb, bomb. Come on, you need to get out of the hole. Get out. Oh. Get out of the hole. Come out of there. There we go. That needs to go there. I'm just double checking. It's got this rim end at this end here. Sort of the rim there. And this is just the ridged area. And this needs to go with that little key there into that little slot. He says, totally not lining that up properly. That needs to slot in. It says take note of the lug which only allows it to go in one position, which is what we've just done. Take the rear end cap, habba-dibba, which has a slot to match an internal lug in the central union. Now this is where it gets interesting. This slot here goes into that key there. However, note there's a big hole here. This wire needs to go into that hole. Then that goes in there like that. But you have to be careful. You don't want to trap that wire and get it knackered. You want to make sure the wire isn't squashed or damaged as it sticks out through there. So there we are, that's on. Take the 2 halves of the rear generator body, this half and this half. It applies together like this. You see, push the halves firmly. Firm! Pushing. Align the slot in the thick end with the lug in the end cap. Key, I call it key. Key and a slot. It's fairly straightforward. You can't get these the wrong way around because the key and the keyhole don't allow it. Push the 2 sections of the generator together. That completes the assembly. Keep the generator safe until you're ready to install it inside the laser cannon housing and light up the LED or connect up the LED. Now, here's what I was saying earlier. Beautiful gold and silver finish. Looks fantastic. You could do some shades or some washes on these. You can see there's a big nub that I could have taken time to sand away there. That's a nub where it's come off the sprue. There's lots of little details. These beautiful little details. However, it's going to go inside here. And when you put the other half on, you're going to see approximately none of that whatsoever. The only bit you'll actually see possibly is that. So we might take some time to fill that and sand that later on. So there's no point actually painting or doing anything on that because you're not going to see any of this, you're not going to see any of that. You just see that bit there maybe. There's no point going overboard now and filling seams and things right now because we don't know what's going to be hidden. Obviously on R2's leg, we don't need to worry about that. Like I said, we will need to do something with this seam line here. Unless I have him permanently installed in the back of the X-Wing, in which case you're not even going to see that. But we'll probably fill that. But we'll do it all later on when we've finished all the building and everything else. So that is it for issue 2. Let me go and get what we've got. We've got this. We have Anne Leg. We have Anne Canopius. Obi-Wan Canopy. Yes, I know. We have Anne Head. And I think that's all we've built so far. Oh, we have Anne Wobbly Wibbly Wobbly Chew. Yeah, we'll have to glue that. So that's where we're up to right now. So let's go and get issue 3 ready, and we'll see what we're doing in issue 3. Okay, a bit more work to do in issue 3 now. We've got to first of all build R2's other leg. We've got some work to do on the cockpit floor, and we've got to finish off that laser cannon. So we'll start off with R2's leg. This is going to be the same process as the other one, except that we have to install some wiring for the lightings. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my modelling knife again. Remember last time we drilled out these little holes? I'm going to do that first. Just do it now while I've got the chance. I want to do it now before I start putting wires inside here, because I don't want to get wires in here and then be damaging them. So there we go, there's the little holes drilled out. Now what we need to do is a bit more fiddly. We need to take the inner half of the leg, and we need to get the bulb. So slip the LED through the hole in the inner half of R2's leg, making sure it goes through from the inside. The inside is where this big ass peg is. That goes in there like that. And what we need to do now is we need to feed the wires along here. However, what you'll see is on this there are 2 little metal spade connectors here. Little spade things. These need to go inside this little slot here. So we're going to see if we can do this without screwing it up and without fumbling like an absolute spoon. So let's just see if we can get these in. The easiest thing to do is get the little spade connectors in first, like that, and then worry about what the wire's doing afterwards. So let's get these spade connectors in first and foremost. That's in there, and that is in. Is that in proper? Is that even in? There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's those 2 in there. They're going to stick out quite a bit, but that's fine. This is going to be basically the content point when you put them into the back of the X-Wing that makes the electrical connection for the lighting on R2. So what we need to do then is get them in, pull this down through here. Where does it want the wire to go? Ensure the contacts fit in the housings, the wires run up inside the leg without obstructing the arrowed mountings. Okay, apparently you have to avoid these bit mountings here. There's nowhere near those. But we need to make sure it's not in the way of this bit here. So we're going to pull this taut, get these wires going up the middle of the leg. Middle of the leg. Get that even tighter, I think. Need to make sure it's not sticking out anywhere. And then it's just simply a case of taking the other half of the leg, which we've done before now, and putting this over the top, making sure we don't trap any little wires, because that would suck. So let's just try and line up the pegs and holes. Make sure I'm on camera. Do it on camera, dear. There we go. Is that in? There we go. I think we're in. It's not exactly fantastically tight. It's a bit loose there at the top end here. Something somewhere. There we go. That's better. There we go. I think that's in. Still a bit loose at the top, but that's fine. It'll do. For the purposes we have entailed, then we need to turn the page over. Again, we're going to have this gap down here, but we can fill that later, taking care not to cover up the metal contacts, obviously. But it depends. If you're going to have the R2 permanently installed in the X-Wing, and it's an Xbox then, and never ever take him out, then you don't have to worry about those little seam lines, because you're never going to see them. But if you want him like separate and out at the side of the Xbox, no, X-Wing, that's the one, yes. I'm going to pull that tight a little bit more. Then you could go to all the effort. I will decide that at the end. We'll wait and see. Next, we have to put this little puppy dog in here again. I'm going to feed the bulb through there. Make sure this is there with, it says, the two lugs at the top and the bottom. Now there is a little recess here for the wire to come out to make sure that doesn't get trapped. Right, so leg is there. We need to put this little puppy on here. You remember we did this last time? This goes on here like that, does it? It is a refreshing change to be able to build a kit without doing any cleanup. It's quite nice, apart from the odd little tiny nub here and there. So we're going to get our plastic magic fantastic glue, if I can get the lid off. The one thing they did wrong with the plastic magic glue is they made the lid smooth, so it's hard to grab. Are we on camera? There's. Get that there. Again, just the tiniest of amounts. I'm just touching the brush to the little gap. The glue will go in by capillary action and do its magic. Don't know if it welds the plastic or how it works with non-polystyrene, but there you go. So that's on there. Then we can get this pushed in. So this, to line up with the other leg, we'll just double check. That leg's there with them on the front. This leg should therefore have these on the front as well. So we'll just get that pushed in there. And it's going to be another tight fit, I reckon. Oh, not as bad, that one. But that's because I drilled them out a little bit with the knife blade. There we go. Lubbly jubbly. So that's that leg and that leg. Next we have some cockpit assembly. So we have the enormous piece of steel that we got in the last issue. Now on this we also have, we got today with issue 3, some metally parts. Some metally parts and some the screws, some and screws, which I'm going to take out and put in here. Now we also get with this issue a screw and driver Gefahrten with the screwing and the driving. Now I have to tell you, as you know, I started the Build Your Own Millennium Falcon. This is the screwdriver that came with the Millennium Falcon. It's got a spinny thing on the end. Look at that. That's a much nicer screwdriver than that. I have to tell you, that's a bit cheap and nasty. Oh, that's a nice one. I don't know if I'll need that one. Maybe for some bigger screws later on. But for now, we've got this one. Now we have 6 parts to go around the edge. It does show you in the guide how to lay them out. So we'll do that first. Take the largest side frame that has an R right on it. It has a little R there, which means that's the wrong way around. I think. And fit it to the right rear holes in the cockpit base this way around. Okay, so put that there. Put those two together. Just put these out of the way. So we take the one with R for right. I put the thing there and I've forgotten already. Take the R, turn it that way around, and it goes there. And then what we need to do is insert the screw from the back. So the screw's going to go in this big hole here, into this thing here. So is this screwdriver magnetic? It is. You beauty. Oh, DeAgostini, you absolute beautiful human beings. That's going to go in the back here. I did make that mark on the table and I'm already ignoring it. I am so useless. Now I'm not going to do this super tight. I just want to get it reasonably tight. It's actually a very tight screw anyway. Madam. I want to get it just finger tight for the moment. Actually, I don't... yeah, I can do. I can just go... Let's just screw it in. Let's just get it screwed in. There we go. Tight as you can. There you go. This is a very thin screwdriver. That's that piece in. Make sure, remember, you've got this round bit sticking out the back here, and it said R is on the inside. Fit the smallest frame marked with an R in the next set of holes. So that will be... I've got an L on it, so that's obviously L for left. So R for right. Doo-doo is going to go here, you see? Like that. I think I'm seeing a pattern now, you see? Do you see? Magnetic screws for the win. DeAgostini, thank you very much for supplying a magnetic screwdriver. You guys are the bee's knees. The bee's knees. Now, this is a bit of a cheap screwdriver, and I fully expect it to either shear itself or shear the screws or just snap, because it's not super durable, I don't think, but that's fairly sturdy. Get that one's in. Fit the remaining R frame like this and screw it in place. So we've now got these two pieces here, and this one has, is this an R or an L? That's an R as well, so that needs to go here. That needs to go there. Fits together beautifully. That needs to go in there. Like that, you see? And I think you can guess what the next step's going to be. And there we have it. That is the assembly complete. I did find, you may have noticed there, although this is a nice little screwdriver and it's magnetic, I did find I had to resort to my DeAgostini Build the Millennium Falcon microphone. No, that's not the right word. Screwdriver. Even though it's bigger, it fits these really nicely, and it just gives me a bit more tightenability. They were actually, I could get them tighter with this because it's a more heavy duty screwdriver. So this screwdriver's fine, but if you've got your own screwdrivers, you might find them better. Even a ratchet screwdriver, because even when they're in tightly, these are still a little bit wobbly. That's probably not a bad thing they've got some wobble to them, because I'm guessing when we start inserting stuff into the cockpit and things later on, you want to be able to wiggle these around a bit to get them to fit. So that's that bit done. Okay, and the last step for issue 3 is to get the laser cannon combobulated. Now, we built the interior parts last time. I said last time, it was like 5 minutes ago. We have now just these bits to put together. Now it says to, first of all, align the laser generator with the cannon housing supplied this time. Not last time, but this time. Noting the 2 pins are indicated by the arrows and the notch in line with the wire. Okay, so that's there. 2 pins indicated by the arrows. So that needs to go in like what now? Like this way. There we go. Spare head. So that's that notch there is for the wire. Okay, that makes sense. So 2 pins, pin and pin, go into yon holes. To those 2. I think that's how this works. Have I got this? I'm making this up. That goes in there like that. There we go. Yes, yeah, so those 2 pins go into those 2 holes. The wire comes out here like that. Fit the 2 pins in the matching sockets. Press the generator into place, leading the wire through the notch of the housing. And then take the outer half of the laser cannon supplied with issue 1. Align it with the other half. Right, there we go. So that is quite simple. It just goes on like that. And this is why we're not particularly worried. That doesn't seem to attach at all firmly. How does that even... That's very loose. It's not got a... Oh, I'm sure it'll fix it. Anyway, yes. So that explains why we didn't need to bother doing anything. Now, I'm assuming it's so you can theoretically maybe display it with that exposed. I don't know. But, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Take the end cap and align it with the end of the housing. This is here, you see. So we don't need to worry about filling that seam because that just goes on there like that, you see. Okay, that's going to hold these two halves together. Okay, that makes sense. That's going to go on there. We'll just make sure it's nice and neat and lined up. Get a little bit in the middle. Now that is just begging for a wash and shading and just effects. Also, we do have this big nasty seam line here. Now, when it's on the wing, you're not going to see the one at the bottom because that's going to be attached like that. When it comes to getting this thing, when we do a repaint, we will have to do things like fix these seam lines. Very easy, very, very easy to fix. It's not a problem, not a challenge at all, but we'll have to do that. So that goes on there. We need to attach... Align the tab and pin the side tubes with the matching holes in the housing. So this is this piece here, which do be careful with this. It's a miracle that hasn't really broken. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these turns up broken. That needs to go on there like that. Attaches on. Very tight fit, I'm going to guess. Oh, not too bad. So that's on there like that. Looking quite meaty now. There's like I have to say, by the way, they do kind of drag things out a bit. It's not bad that they do it, but that whole step was all these pictures. That just sticking that on the side is two separate pictures. You don't quite need to go that much in depth, but it's good they give you that much information. Line the tab in the side detail with the matching slot in the side tubes, making sure that the part is this way round. There's this little tiny piece here, and that needs to go like that. Goes in like that, do you see? Front end cap with the end of the housing, noting that the hole is D-shaped and will only fit in one position. It is indeed, there's a flat bit there. So again, it's a key and lock. So that needs to go in there. And I think these two little dangly tubes need to go, there's two little tiny holes here, which you probably won't see on camera, but there's two little holes in there. You somehow have to make sure, where's the hole? Have to make sure they thread through those little tiny holes. I'm getting flashbacks to Chris over at Gross Models doing that motorbike and giving me panic attacks with the spokes. Yeah. Right, so this needs to... This is where it gets fiddly now. I can't actually see what I'm doing very well at all. So you need to get these in the hole. Now there's a little sort of thing there as well. There's a little hole in which it can go in there. So that would probably be a good idea. Get that in there first. It's very hard to see the hole on the outer housing because it's kind of black. I don't want to force this. Oh! God, that was terrifying. So that is that. Then it says press the barrel assembly from stage 1 firmly into the end of the front end cap. So wibbly wobbly, very wibbly wobbly. It's not even staying on now, look. Thing on here goes on there like that. I shall just hold it here. Attach it there. Thus, God, you can see the size of this now. We have a very wibbly wobbly. That's just not even staying on now. Laser cannon. Now I'm not going to glue this thing on here. When I do glue it on, obviously what I will do is I will make sure I'll use the grid on the mat to make sure it's all straight and lined up. However, I'm not doing that now because I know there's things I need to stick on the end of this, like the muzzle flash hider and things like that. So there's no point me gluing this on here now, because as soon as I start trying to jam things on, it's going to snap. The super glue is brittle, it'll crack the super glue and break it off. So I'm going to leave that wibbly wobbly. When I've got everything else assembled on this end of the laser cannon, I can get it on there, I can get some super glue on here, I can put it in, hold it in place for a few seconds, use my mat to line it up, make sure it's straight. Bob's your uncle. That will then be as good as. But I'm not going to do anything else with it for now. So that is that done. And I think that concludes the building for issues 1, 2 and 3. So this just gives you an idea of how big this puppy's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be big, man. It's going to be massive. We have 2 legs, one with some wiring. I'll put them there. Hope you can see all that. We have a bonce. What else have we built? Where's the other bits? We've built something else. Did we build anything else? That's it. Oh, and the cockpit floor. There we go. So that is issues 1 to 3. So stay tuned till next month. I'm going to be doing these every time I get a delivery, because you get the deliveries, I think it's like you get 2 or 3 every 3 or 4 weeks, or something like that, once a month every 5 weeks, something weird. I'm not going to do issue by issue episodes. I'm just going to do, if I receive 3 or 4 issues, I'll film 3 or 4 issues, and they'll be a bit shorter than this one. This is still, you know, got a lot of introductory stuff, so don't worry about that. But until next time, it just remains for me to say, first of all, like I said at the start, my very good friend Chris over at Gross Models is doing his own build of this, and he's filming it as well. He did start first, so fair play to him. I'm going to give him shout outs. Do go over to his channel. It's youtube.com/gross models, GROSSMODELS, Gross Models. Give him a subscribe and watch his build of this as well, because it'll be interesting to see how we differ, how we do things differently. But yeah, do stick around. If you're not already a subscriber, like and subscribe. Don't forget, of course, if you want to, you can support me on Patreon, patreon.com/modelmakingguru. I do this for my living, and I depend 100% on my patrons to support me, to keep me doing this. So do consider becoming a patron. And don't forget, of course, go and join the Model Makers Boom Hut, facebook.com/groups/Model Boom Hut. It's the best, most friendliest place you'll find to be hanging out, showing off your works and talking about the model making. So until next time, I'll see you in a month with the rest of this. Until next time though, take care of yourselves, go make something awesome, go be awesome, you there, you right there, go be awesome, and I'll say, adios amoebas. Fast forward this bit.